Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth, and there's always this conversation going on about how money and political power kind of weigh each other out, economic power versus political power. And I was having a great conversation with a scholar that I just put right near the top of my list as far as people that I respect, and Dr. Monikah Ogando, and I want to ask her about some of this. So first, I want to ask Dr. Ogando, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. That's good.
Good, good. Yeah, you always seem so happy. I'm glad you're happy. We need happy people in the world. You and I, we talk sometimes, and every now and then we'll catch up on Facebook or something like that, and you'll just say something that's thoughtful, profound, and that's why I enjoy talking to you because your insight I think is extraordinary, and I don't think it's entirely uncorrelated with the fact that you happen to have two PhDs. And
You always
so
throw that in there.
I got to. I mean, you know what? A sister worked that hard to get all of that. You got to support it. And so, I think that, so whenever we're talking and something like that comes up, I'm always thinking, you know what, we need to do an interview about this. We need to have a conversation so that other people can kind of listen in.
hmm
And you and I were talking about economic power. And mainly when I think about economic power, I'm thinking mostly about black economic power and how to build that and then political power. And there have been people that have sort of debated that. And there are some people who've even said that political power means nothing without economic power. Some people say that you know what, if we all line up and vote in every election, then things are going to work themselves out. But there's a lot of evidence to say that that's not the case. What comes to your mind first when I say, if I were to walk up to you and I were a 5 year old and I said, you know, how does political power, which should I focus on the most, economic power, political power? If so, why? What would you say to me as a 5 year old?
I would say, who are your parents that you're asking these questions? It's a chicken or the egg thing
Mm,
because it is with a certain level of political influence that you get economic power, and then but you don't really get political influence without economic wherewithal. So it's a little bit of both,
mm,
and but it's become I want to say more public. It's not new.
mm.
The political machine has always moved this way. It's just that with the advent of technology and social media and a more critical mass, a more critical thinking mass, certain things have become more public. You have WikiLeaks and you have people like Edward Snowden, etc. Um, those kinds of people have always existed, but before they used to get shot before they opened their mouth. And so that's how I would answer that is you kind of do the Scarface thing. First you get the money, then you get the power.
Interesting, interesting. So, do you think that in the black community that there has been a lack of focus on the economic power? I mean, do you think that, that I'm going to say that I've felt that, when people talk about black progress or empowerment, they tend to focus on the civil rights movement, and then they talk about the civil rights movement. They talk about Dr. King, which tends to, at least based on the way the message has been whitewashed over time, it becomes this message of peace and passivity, and that political involvement is your key to salvation. If you vote for the Democrats in every election, then they'll protect you from the Republicans. If you get mad about something, you hold a march and a rally, and you hope for the best. Um, you know, but maybe I sound cynical saying that. What's your interpretation in terms of the way we've been trained to think about these issues as Black people?
Well, it's a little different for me because I am a black immigrant. And I remember growing up, and my parents always used to tell me, when you're in my house, you do what I say because I'm the one that pays the bills. So from a very, very young age, I always got the idea of, oh, okay, so if I want to do what I want to do, I need to be able to generate my own money. And the key to
Wow.
independence is to wield my own wallet and to have something in it. So that has always been inculcated, I think, subconsciously. And now that my father lives with me instead of me living with my parents, now he's like, damn it, because the roles have been turned. I'm like, you're in my house now.
No, that's funny.
But yeah, it's always been a question of, if you, whatever it is that you want to do, you want to be self sufficient. And this idea of waiting for somebody else to do something for you, validate you, grant you powers, whatever the case may be, no revolution has ever happened by saying please and thank you. Like ever in life, in any kind of history, it's never been about please and thank you. It's
Mm,
been about force. It's been about protest. It's been about pushing somebody up against the wall and saying you have no choice but to, change this, etc. And so I don't want to diminish the power of social critical mass, social civic involvement, civic protest, etc. That's important, and we saw that with Egypt, for example, when really it started as a student-led social media protest that then later toppled Mubarak's regime, and so there's a place for that, but that movement couldn't have gone as far as it did, as fast as it did, if it didn't link up with some very powerful economic forces as well. So
interesting.
just think back to your own childhood. It's like you couldn't do nothing without mom and dad saying something. You know what I mean? Like, didn't you grow up like that? Didn't somebody say to you, as long as you're under my house, you play by my rules? Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
So, we you take the microcosm and you translate those rules and those parallels into the macrocosm, and then you begin to understand a little bit better how this thing works. Um,
Mm.
yeah, you've got to get your own economic independence, which is why I'm such an advocate for entrepreneurship. I think yes, you can live a great life, working for somebody else. I'm not doubting that, and I'm not downing that. I don't look down on people who have jobs and spend their whole lives in a career, in somebody else's payroll. That's an honorable living. Um, but it's numbing for a reason, and one of the reasons why people sometimes have such a difficult time making the shift to being self-employed or building their own company or being an entrepreneur is because they don't want to let go of the security or the sense of comfort that comes with a steady paycheck or benefits or whatever the case may be. Yeah, so but that's on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a reason why that's so um, anesthetizing.
That's so interesting you say that. I think it's important to always remind people too that being an owner or owning something does not mean you have to be someone who runs a business. There's a difference between owning a piece of a business and actually having to run the business.
Right.
So whenever I hear people say, "Well, no, everybody's not built to be an entrepreneur," I say, well, maybe
True.
not, but everyone is built to own something, right?
Sure.
So the example I give is I say, look, if you want to get off your corporate plantation, save up $2,000 with three of your friends. Let one person run the business. Everybody invest 2,000 apiece to get started, and you're an owner. You own something,
Hmm.
and so I think that we've got to get past making excuses for
Sure.
why we don't empower ourselves economically. But to some extent, and maybe we can dig into this because you also, among many things, you happen to be an expert in psychology. I think that there is kind of a trained victimhood that some of us can pick up. And I don't think it says that there's something wrong with us or that we do this deliberately, but sometimes I believe in America, you're really trained to let your guard down. You're really trained to believe that racism isn't real, that it's not that big of a deal. You're trained, and that all these statistical disparities exist because people aren't working hard enough, or or they just happen to appear out of nowhere, right? We don't realize that they exist because there have been systemic obstacles created to oppress us and keep us in our place. Um, and I think that sometimes, with that learned victimhood, not only do we sort of let our guard down in terms of believing racism's gone, but we might get to the point that we believe that if we are polite enough, if we ask long enough, eventually someone will be nice enough to give us what we need in order to be empowered. And I think that that's kind of a silly idea. Even little things like, for many years myself, I used to say, it just stinks that the public school system doesn't teach real Black history. They don't tell the truth about Black history. And then when I studied the
It's
history of the
not
public,
supposed to.
right, exactly. And here I am, I'm supposed to supposedly an educated person, But it took me a long time to realize, wait a minute, that's not their job, and that's not anywhere in their incentive structure to teach us
Right.
about ourselves and to teach the truth about ourselves in an empowering way. Why would they want to? I mean, you have a group of people that you've oppressed for a long time to the point where you're afraid that they're going to wake up and get mad at you for what you've done to them. And why in the world would you teach them a bunch of stuff that's only going to make them angry? Right? So little things like that. So do you think that there's sort of this learned victimhood that some of us can end up picking up that kind of holds us back? What do you think?
Yeah, but it's not, when you say victimhood, it makes it sound as though it's lazy or turning the other cheek or whatever. And it's a little more, like you said, systemic than that. You don't have the room for critical thinking when you're living a ramen noodle kind of life. You're just thinking about surviving, about feeding your kids, about making it to the next day. And so um, it's a very clever way of keeping people distracted by making them just focus on their own survival. You know, um, I was before joining you. We're talking about political power through commerce and political power through money, through economic empowerment. And I was doing a little bit of research and finding out all these interest groups that fund not only political campaigns and political representatives, but also the media. That's how shows can stay on, is because of the advertisers. It's not just because you tweet and hashtag some kind of show that it stays on. There's got to be an economic engine that makes it happen and pays people's payroll, etc. So you have anti-abortion and you have pro-abortion. You have casinos and gambling and you have commercial banks. You have computer equipment folks and you have gun rights and gun control and all these other different interest groups. And in the midst of all of that, you have advertisers also for the media. It's a little bit of a marriage. That's why the White House has a press, an evening that's just dedicated for the press. It's a little symbiotic relationship,
Mm,
and so when you look at commercials, when you look at certain shows, that's not just entertainment; it's indoctrination. And so when you can think clearly, you can think critically about this, just pay attention to really subtle things like, you Lifetime, for example, and it's a show about a scorned wife or something. The commercials there are very different than the commercials, say, on ESPN.
mm,
That
mm-hmm.
focus on athletic performance or that focus on being the best man and beating the other guy and you're cooler than the other guy or whatever. It's different because they know that they have a different audience and that they have different values and different desires. And so this economic empowerment piece, I just want people, I want everybody that's in the audience to start thinking about, why do they want me to buy that? Why do they want me to believe that? Right? The people who listen to Fox News do not listen to, like MSNBC, for example, right? And so, there's a reason why they push a particular agenda, and it's not like it's nobody's evil. These people that are news anchors and that are producers, etc. You're appealing to their survival. You want to stay on the job, you want to get to that corner office, you want to further your career. This is what you've got to do, and these are the advertisers that we have. And some people say, okay, fine, I'll do that because that's the game. And then there are other people like you and me that say, I'm not doing that. Well, if you want to be in my house, you have to play by my rules, and if you don't like the rules, you gotta.
Mm.
know?
You know what I find, Dr. Ogando? I find that people that don't understand that simple reality between economic power and just power in general, um, they end up very frustrated. They really do think that they can go into someone else's organization and do what they want to do.
Right.
They don't they may not come in while being in tune with the goals and the incentives of that organization and realize that this is why they exist. This is what they're seeking to do. This is what they're getting funded to do. And if they're going east and you're trying to go west, then at that point their incentive is to eliminate you.
Sure.
They're not gonna go west because you convinced them that it's the right thing to do.
Right.
They go west because or east because that's where the money is. Or east
Mhm.
is, well, you know what I mean. So I think that I think that's really important. I think that really, if you learn how to follow the money,
Yeah.
um, that just helps you understand so many things about how the world works. I even think about, for example, the constant battles in in filmmaking and music between artists and the corporate entities that are funding the music. uh, I see the battles occurring because the people that have the power, which are the people who provide the money, their incentive is to make a profit, and to maximize their profit. They're thinking like capitalists, and the artist is thinking as a risk taker, and they want to take these creative risks to do, the most amazing, most beautiful thing. And the people providing the money might say something like, well, that would be an amazing film, but we're only going to give you $100 million to make Fast and Furious 8 because we know that movie's going to make, $500 million. Your new idea might be amazing, but it's untested. We don't know, and we're not trying to lose money, so you can take this creative risk, right?
Mhm.
Now I want to go back to this idea that I'm just stuck on this idea. I'm pushing my agenda right now, and this is my house, damn it. So
That's right.
I'm kidding. This ain't my house. This is Dr. Ogando's house when she's here. She is the boss. But I want to read something to you and get your interpretation as an expert psychologist. You're one of your PhDs in psychology, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got that right. Okay, and it really has bothered me, and I just want to kind of get your take on this. I was analyzing the lyrics to the Black National Anthem, "Lift Every Voice and Sing,"
Yes.
and I love the song, great song, glad to sing it all. Whenever I go give speeches, we sing it and stuff, and it's all good. I know most of the words, but I analyzed the lyrics one day, and the lyrics take me back to the point I was making earlier that I wonder if there's something about our conditioning that has trained us to be very, very passive and to almost take pride in the fact that we've been so abused and to almost rely on things like faith and hope as opposed to building and fighting back and self-defense and assertiveness to get us collectively over the hump. And I'm going to read some of the lyrics and I'm going to kind of give you my interpretation of this, and I'd love to hear yours as well. I'm going to pick this particular passage in the song. "Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast." And then it goes into the next passage, which is making very strong references to God, which is okay. In the next passage, the word God is mentioned about 4 or 5 times. And here's what I see when I hear this song. I see a group of people that has been through hell and back. Now, you know, the chastening rod, the blood of our ancestors, right? And here's the thing. First thing I pick up on that is, um, we know where this torture has come from. It's come from white people, not all white people, but white supremacy. But there's
Mhm.
no mention of white people in this song. Um, you know, Perhaps because we're okay with mentioning our suffering, but we're not always okay with mentioning who's responsible and how this happened. Because we are afraid of white people. We're afraid, oh, if I say the word white
Speak for
people,
yourself.
no, like if I not you, not me, but if I say something like, let's say I give us a speech and I mention the white man and I say, look, here's what Malcolm said. Malcolm, and I quote Malcolm, and Malcolm might say something. The white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then lock you up for being drunk. That's considered a radical statement coming out of my mouth, because if I'm, say, speaking to a group of corporate black people, they're going to say, oh my God, he said the white man, right? But we know that that's the truth, right? But we can't speak the truth because we're kind of an occupied group of people. But then the other thing I get from this passage is I kind of see this group of people that's been to hell and back. Not only is there no mention of who's responsible for this hell that they've gone through, but there's almost like a pride in saying, um, I've gone through everything. All these horrible things have happened to me. I didn't fight back, but I just kept marching. The way I fought back was I kept going. And so to some extent, there's certainly to me, you should take some pride in being able to endure, you know, various forms of difficulty, hostility, whatever. But the question to me is, why is there not a following verse to say, now I'm standing up, now I'm fighting back? If you shoot my kids, I'm going to shoot you. And I'm going to shoot you. You shot my son in the face. I'm going to shoot you in the face, right? Why is there something wrong with us saying that you're showing aggression toward us? We're going to be aggressive back for self-defense purposes. But whenever that tone of self-defense, whether it's economic self-defense or even physical self-defense, comes into the conversation, there are institutions, particularly the liberal establishment, that I believe are they're kind of positioned to talk us down. I'll give you an example. Then I'm going to let you talk because I'm going to shut up after that. There was a guy who was one of the heads of, I think he was the head of the Georgia branch of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And
Mhm.
he just made a very simple common sense statement. He said, the police are killing our children, and so are some of these crazy folks down south. Black people should protect themselves.
Mhm.
We should show that if you hurt us, we're going to hurt you back, and that will lead to less aggression toward us. Well, he was removed for that statement. He was removed from his post, and they sent him back for retraining, which sounds like this creepy way of saying we're going to re-brainwash you so you can think the
Yeah.
way we want you to think.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with what he said. And so I'm not just talking about physical violence. I'm talking about even things like saying to black people, you know what? Every other ethnic group supports their own businesses. Asian communities, Jewish communities, Arab communities. One of my friends was from India, and she said, yeah, when we came from India, there was already an economic cushion for us because we don't buy other people's stuff. You can put a store right in the middle of our neighborhood. We're not going to that store. She said, we put our money together. We'll build a business. My parents had nothing. Now they own 20 stores or something, so they're millionaires now. And it's a very simple thing. But when black people kind of talk that way about economic self-defense and even economic assertiveness, suddenly you've got people saying it's racist or it's what's wrong with you or
Well, stop
or
talking.
you know what I mean. So give me your interpretation of that. I didn't mean to talk so long, but I hope you got what I was saying on that.
I do, and my solution is very simple: stop talking and start creating.
Hmm.
I
Interesting.
mean, because then we just go back to the same argument of, why can't I just talk about this? Because you know why. The system is not designed for you to, that's not what this is. So stop talking. Now, I have a personal story that's a little bit related to that. You know that that I had a scare with cancer, stage four
Yes.
cervical cancer some years ago. And I did not tell my family while I was going through it. The price that I paid for not telling my family was feeling alone and feeling unsupported and feeling like I was going through something that was so scary, and I had to face my own mortality, and the weight of it was bigger because there was nobody to lean on. I didn't tell family, I didn't tell friends. However, the payoff for not telling my family and friends is that I got to safeguard my own energy. I didn't feel confident enough or strong enough to share my doubts and sometimes when you tell somebody that you're going through something, they first of all, they hold you in that space of, oh, poor baby. I'm going to pray for you because you're struggling, you're doing so bad,
Hmm.
which perpetuates it. And I was just beginning to understand the power of my own intention, my energy, my focus, my words. And I didn't want to speak anything that I didn't want to create. So I just stopped talking about, I didn't share with anybody. The only people that knew what I was going through was the doctors that tended to me and myself. And I didn't tell my daughter. I didn't. My daughter was just 3 at the time. There's nothing to tell. But didn't tell my husband at the time. Didn't share it with anybody. This was my journey. And if I was going to prove that I was going to be able to do this and heal myself and get to the other side of this, I had to know that I could do that um, without using anybody as a crutch. And so later, when I knew that I was in the clear and I got that clean bill of health, I then later, one of the ways that I came full circle was by sharing it with my family. And of course, my mother's first reaction, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't tell us and you didn't give us a chance to be there for you. And, blah, 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 blah. And what if you had died? I'm like, exactly. Exactly. I didn't want to hear that. Right. And so It's the same thing. Again, we have to start practicing critical thinking in terms of, one of the universal laws is as within, so without. And so whatever's happening in the microcosm is also happening in the macrocosm. So for me, it's been very easy to make the translation into this systemic stuff that's against, that looks like it's against you or against a particular race of people or particular gender, etc. Because I saw it in the microcosm of my own life. When I was growing up and as a teenager, I wanted to do certain things that my parents didn't let me because I was living in their house, their rules. It's the same thing with the country. It's the same thing with a society. It's the same thing with a civilization. It's designed a particular way, and some folks need to sit down and shut up and be quiet and hold still. In my case, it was the teenagers. You do as you're told. In the macrocosm, you might see women have to sit down and be quiet about certain things that bother them or that they consider unfair, or a particular race of people, etc. And it's like that's the way the game is designed. Why are you so surprised? And
Mm,
so if you want to do something differently about it, then do it.
mm,
Zip your mouth and do it.
mm-hmm,
Because it's not going to be handed to you. You're not going to get permission. It's not going to be okay.
mm-hmm,
You will get fired. You will get ostracized. You will get, invalidated. The media will rake you through the coals. That's just the game. And we can sit here and talk about how unfair it is and how one sided. Okay. But you're still broke and you're still powerless. So now what?
mm. That is, I love it. I think that's a perfect answer because, I always tell people that, the other team will never congratulate you for scoring more points than they do, or they're never going to be happy for you because you won the championship that they felt they should have for themselves, right? So if you're looking, they're never going to give you permission to score more points, unless you're just so far behind that they feel sorry for you. And I think that there are some people who sort of approach that with civil rights. Like they kind of feel that, um, because we've gone through so much, white people should understand the importance of letting up and giving us a few things back.
Why?
And that's just
Why?
not
It
going.
goes against their own very survival instinct.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it kind of
I
go.
mean, even biologically,
Mm.
you mix a black person and a white person, and the white person will disappear. That kid is not half black, half white. That kid is black. A lighter shade, but black nonetheless.
That's funny.
Listen, look at me. I am a living proof of that.
That is hilarious. That is so funny. You mix
So
a white
yeah, I,
person with
I
a black
completely
person, and the white person will disappear. Wow.
the same thing with sports, the same thing with politics, same thing with anything. All things being equal, eventually so and so will disappear. And so it is not in their best interest to let you have anything.
Mm,
Why is this so hard to understand? You know
wow.
what I mean? It's
Hmm.
not it's there it's not evil. It's not malicious. It's not, I mean, it looks like it, right? Because a lot of times they will go to a lot of people. And I'm not just speaking about a particular race, but when you feel as though your power, your control, your survival is at stake, human beings in general will do and go to a lot of lengths to ensure that you remain with whatever power and control you think is you're entitled to or that you're used to. And that's just human nature. And so when you are the underdog, you've just got to be cleverer. You've just got to be more persistent. You've got to be, the fox that outsmarts the, you know what I mean? So it's like, just learn the game and then play the game so that you can win the game. There's no point in changing. The game is not going to get changed just because you cry.
You know,
And I know that it sounds a little bit, I know you want to say something, but
no,
I
no,
know
no.
that it sounds a little, I think that's probably where the immigrant mentality becomes helpful for me. You know, yes, it's true that when Americans come to my country, they expect us to speak English as though, but it's like, but that's not the language I speak here. You came to my house, so you need to learn the language, not me learn yours. You're a visitor, you're a guest in my house, so you get to, you know what I mean? So I expected, as a 10-year-old, that when I came to this country, people were going to be helpful and they were going to, try to understand Spanish and da 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 da. I didn't. I was very surprised about the rhetoric of you're in America and you need to learn to speak English. And but I was like, wait a minute, but when you come to my house, you want me to speak English here and you want me to speak English there. Where, in what at what point do you then adopt somebody else's? Well, no, colonial people who have that colonializing in their history, they're not used to adhering to anybody else's, you know, house rules. So when I understood that, I got really clever, and then I learned 5 languages. Now I know 5 languages, and no matter where you drop me, I'll be able to communicate something. Do you know what I mean? But if I sat there crying about, and this is, let me tell you something. This is something that I talk about with my 80, now almost 84-year-old father, who has spent 30 years in this country and to this day doesn't really speak it 100% fluently. And so somebody like me has to take time out of my schedule and what I'm doing so that I can go over there and help you out and translate for something, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, nobody did that for me. I had to get made fun of and bullied when I was in school because of my accent or whatever the case may be. So there's a certain level of self-determinism that people just have to undertake. And it's like, I'm sorry, nobody's going to hand it to you. We can cry about it, but it is what it is.
Well, I love it. That's a great way to end it. It is what it is, and I think you might have gave me the quote of the month, at least maybe the quote of the year. If you mix a white person with a black person, the white person will disappear. That was funny. That was hilarious. Well, before we get done, because I've taken up 31 minutes and 25 seconds of your time, which
Look
I
at you.
so appreciate, I want to ask you, can you tell us about your conference, Thrive, and your organization, and what you're kind of doing with that? I want people to know about that.
Well, the financial, insurance, and real estate sector spends almost $1 billion every year, making sure that they have the political prowess to continue thriving in this country. And so we want to do the Thrive conference is an opportunity for people who are either in corporate and want to move into ownership, business ownership, entrepreneurship, et cetera, which is not the same thing. We talked about that. Um, it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs who want to grow their business and folks that have a corporate career and want to move into business ownership to get the strategies, the not only the mindset and the leadership strategies, but also the technical how to, there's some practical things that you have to do in terms of handling your finances, in terms of building a team, in terms of getting the word out there for your marketing, etc. So the Thrive Conference will happen this fall. The website is
And
thriveconference2015.com.
where's it going to be?
It'll be in Atlanta, October 2015 in Atlanta. And the domain, the URL is thriveconference2015.com. And, it's important, that my heart is with women leaders. And when women thrive, that's the name of the virtual conference that's coming up this summer. When women thrive, everybody prospers. You empower a man, his family eats well, and there's generational wealth that's built there. But when you empower a woman economically, it's not just her family that thrives, it's also her community and the nation. And we have data now that shows that Fortune 500 companies that have a woman on their board or in their leadership outperform those that don't by at least 26%. So now it's not just because it's morally right or because it's fair. It's because it matters to your bottom line to empower women. So whenwomenthrive.com is the name of the virtual summit coming up in July, and thriveconference2015.com is the name of the conference in the fall. And
Well,
I'm excited.
yeah, you should be, and I think it sounds like an awesome event, and I couldn't help but agree vehemently with what you said about the importance of empowering women. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think last year or the year before was the first year where women outnumber men in the workforce now. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Yeah, and from what I understand as well, the United States actually trails behind other industrialized countries when it comes to creating workspaces that are supportive and empowering to women. Which doesn't make any sense. I mean, it would just seem that with that massive change taking place, we should be more supportive of not just giving women opportunities, but also just understanding that being a woman is different from being a man. That as a woman, you want to have kids, at a certain stage that may differ from what men want to do, or you have different needs. Uh, you
Well,
know,
men want to have kids too, but you don't have to be out 6 weeks.
Right,
You
exactly.
know,
That's what I mean. Men don't get pregnant. That'll probably never change. But then again, they're inventing new stuff every day. But I mean, really, I mean, women are different from men. Women have different needs in the workplace. I think that some of those things that women go through, as we know, they end up creating that pay gap and the opportunity gap where women have to make these hard choices between work and family. And I just think that we should shift our society so that the choice isn't so hard anymore. You know, so
well, while we're waiting for society to shift, it's
oh,
important
we're
for women
already gonna shift.
to
Yeah.
be economically empowered so that from that position of influence, we can make political decisions, we can change laws, we can change and shift the way that our companies, our organizations work, and that our communities thrive so that everybody wins. And it's important to note that it's not like an either or. It's not either men are on top and they're thriving and women are not, or women are thriving and men are not. It's not, that's not the way it works. I think men also pay a huge price under the umbrella of patriarchy. There are a lot of
Mm,
things that are not available to men because of this system. You know,
really.
the breadth of emotional expression is not available to you. A breadth of even occupational exploration. You know, sometimes a woman, when you're in a marriage, for example, a woman can take some time off and find herself. A man doesn't have that luxury because you have to be the provider. And so when you cut off certain possibilities for any human being, a man or a woman, everybody suffers. And so we're not talking about this enough. We're thinking that men are the ones that are getting the upper hand, and they're not. You guys are dying of heart attacks and killing families and yourselves because of the desperation that you're under. And, we have to talk about this. And when we empower women economically, it takes off that pressure from men. And we just have to let our societal what's the word I'm looking for? The connotations of what it means to be the breadwinner versus not the breadwinner.
Mm,
The head of a house versus not being the head of the house, etc. We have to let those connotations go so that everybody can thrive.
I think that's awesome, and I like that idea a lot. And you're right. I mean, I think that when you think about that pressure of being a man and some of the things that, especially you talk about black men, I just really think that as black men, you know, it can be tough. You have these expectations placed on you that mostly financial, that I think cause a lot of men to just not even want to get married because
Right.
they just say, you know what, I can barely get by myself. I can't take care of other people too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not possible.
Right.
And so I think that everything you say makes perfect sense, and I think people should support it. So I hope people will go take a look, and also follow you. They should follow you. Do you do Twitter and stuff? I mean, how can
Yes.
people remain
I'm
connected
on
to you?
Twitter at MonikahOgando.com. I'm on Facebook. Dr. Monikah Ogando is my fan page. Instagram, MonikahOgando.com is my website. I'm everywhere.
Okay.
Put those in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. I sure will. I sure will. I want people to go follow you because I follow you and I think that your words are always wise and thoughtful, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy talking to you. So thank you very much, Dr. Ogando. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and everybody, don't forget this is Dr. Monikah Ogando. You can spell her name in the comments in the show as she mentioned. Her name is spelled Monikah, right?
Yep.
Ogando. So make sure you
Good
spell it right.
job.
Yes. All right. So, and I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.